Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica. I just want to apologize for the delay. Seems like some technical difficulties, and I wanted to make sure I could get as many people on before I started as possible. So if you miss anything, please feel free to message or email me at jessica@healthyeatingplan.co, and I'll be happy to go over anything that I missed. So today's webinar is about the top 3 counterintuitive things you're doing that's preventing weight loss. And there is an insane amount of myths and do's and don'ts out there. So I understand the confusion that everybody goes through that doesn't know health and fitness or the ins and outs about it and just want to get results. And so most of the webinars will be covering a lot of things that you hear in the streets that need a debunking. So today, again, the top 3 things are: never eating is number 1. And if you want to take notes, I totally encourage it. Never eating is number 1. The second thing is timing doesn't matter. And the third thing is energy and what you need for it and if you need it. So the first thing is never eating. A lot of people will say, I never eat. I have no idea why I'm fat. That's precisely why you're fat. If we're not eating, we're actually eating muscle instead. When you eat your own muscle, you gain fat. When you gain fat and you lose muscle, you can't burn fat because you need muscle to burn the fat away. So all this craziness, and it gets a little confusing, but it's very simple. We need energy to walk around and talk and all that, and that's the nutrient fat, which is in our muscles. Fat on you that you see is not a fat that the body uses for energy. It's on there because it was stored in excess. So the body had no use for it from the moment you ate it. So it's just sitting there. And unless you're actually burning it off through muscles, it's going to sit there. So when you don't eat, you're not feeding the muscle what it needs to have energy to walk and talk and do whatever you want. This is amplified by 10 for anybody who's active. So if there's athletes on here or people who are working out and runners especially, just because when you're working out and not eating, you have a better chance of losing more muscle and gaining more fat because you're asking more from your body without any fuel. So that's why it's so important that you need to eat. Never eating is the reason why you're getting fat and becoming flabby. When we eat, we're fueling ourselves. We're giving ourselves the energy to burn. If you don't have that, it's not fueling the muscle can't build, you can't build muscle, you can't burn fat. That's just as simple as it is. So even anybody who's very thin and is like, oh, I'm thin, we have a term called skinny fat, which maybe some of you have heard of. In the industry, we call it skinny fat because they're all fat, but they don't realize it because they're a thin frame, they're a thin person. But they're not eating regularly or not often. And so if you were to actually do a pinch test for body fat, which is very popular, that people commonly know this, it's going to be a lot of fat, a very high percentage. So someone who is 115 pounds could have 32+% of body fat and be like, oh my God. And that's a really high risk for heart disease, which is why a lot of thin people have heart disease and don't know it. So again, just because of your size doesn't necessarily mean that you're either fat or thin. You could be very big and have a lot of muscle. You could be very thin and have a lot of fat. All of this is based on how much you're eating, which brings me into the second one, and that's timing doesn't matter. Now, the better part of this segment in terms of time will not be in this webinar. I'm going to generally talk about timing. The specifics of timing will be in another webinar, so keep your ear and eyes pinned to your email and Facebook for that webinar. But for right now, just generally speaking, timing is everything. If you were eating donuts all day long, but on time and in the time frame you need to eat around your wake up, around your workout, and around your bedtime, it doesn't matter. When you're eating is number 1, choice is second. I'm going to say it again. When you eat is number 1, choice is second. The biggest problem today is no one eats. Never eating, problem number 1. I'm not going to eat because I don't want to get fat. Well, you're making yourself fat by not eating. So that's the first misconception. And that leads to, well, because I'm not eating, I shouldn't be getting fat because I'm only eating once a day or 3 times a day. Timing doesn't matter. Yes, it does. One feeds the second. So when you're going past without eating, you're starting to eat muscles. I call it a muscle feast. So you're feasting on the muscle and you're eating away at it all day long. If you get in your car and you drive it, doesn't the gauge go from full to empty? And what happens when it hits empty? You have to refuel or you die. It's the exact same thing. The principle applies to the body. We're a moving machine. We need fuel. Food is fuel. So if you're not continuously filling it, what are you running on? Fumes. And at some point you're going to crash, you're going to break down, you're going to pass out, you're going to be tired, you're going to be cranky. That's the same thing that happens with your car. So you have to think of it in that terms. Like, we are walking and talking around all day long. We don't run with a battery pack. Food is what we need. So if the timing goes on and on and on and you're not eating, you're just running on empty. So timing does matter. Timing is the most important thing in terms of nutrition when it comes to regular nutrition, let alone a workout schedule, a runner, an athlete. And an athlete will tell you that they eat all day long. That's why, because they're constantly burning. And that leads us to the third thing, energy. You're getting energy from food. You're getting your food in on time. Then it's eating. And then the eating again is why you need the energy. So it all fuels itself. So a lot of people reach for a coffee because caffeine, it'll give me energy. Yes, but then you crash, only lasts for a couple of minutes. Or they'll go for a supplement. I had a girl come into my boot camp class the other morning and she said, I was taking this pill before a class and I had a lot of energy. Can I start taking it again? And I said, no. And she said, well, I had energy. I said, yeah, because it's a pill of caffeine and sugar. What do you know? How do you know what's in that pill? And she said, oh, you know what? Let me go look. So she decided to just have an apple or a pear in the morning before workout, or some kind of a starch or a carb, which is what is energy. So when you're actually eating real energy, food that is converted into energy, that's all you need. You don't need a pill. It's the fact that we become so afraid of food that we don't want to eat. I never eat. We don't care about the timing. If we eat 1 or 2 times a day, we got some food in, so that doesn't matter. And then the energy, we don't want to eat a food. We want to have like a coffee, a liquid, a drink, a shake, or a pill, because it's not food. This has become a society that's so afraid of food that you never want to eat. You don't care about what time you're eating, and then you rather have a fake supplement of food instead of food. Those are the 3 biggest misconceptions out today. You have to eat. Food is fuel. You have to fuel yourself all day long. As long as you're up and talking, you're running, you have to feed that. And that's how you're going to have energy. So if you were doing the first 2 things, you wouldn't even be worried about energy unless you're not sleeping. Then that's a different story. But when it comes in terms of nutrition, everything is about food. When it's in terms of working out, everything is about food. When it comes in terms of living as a human being, everything is about food. So these 3 things are the most biggest misconceived properties when it comes to fitness. And no one either talks about it, they'll appease you and lie and say a whole bunch of things and say, have this shake, have this drink, and appease and feed the notion that you don't want to eat food. I'm not going to do that. It's not okay to do that. Food is good. Food's not going to hurt you. How you eat is what is important. When you eat is what is important. And those 2 things will feed the energy in and of itself. So that's the top 3 things that I wanted to go over today. I hope you find it beneficial and got some light bulbs going off. Maybe you can figure out what's going on with you and what you're doing or what you can change differently and make adjustments based on what I just said. And any questions or concerns, message me I'm right here. You can see the chats open. Message me on Facebook, or you can email me again at jessica@healthyeatingplan.co. Again, these webinars are every Friday, at 1 p.m. And we're going to have a different theme every time. So just to recap, 3 top things of misconception: never eating. The problem with that is never eating is how you gain weight and lose muscle. 2 is timing doesn't matter. Everything is about timing. If you're having a donut on time of your eating schedule, that's all that matters. Work with the choice after you get the timing on track. And 3rd, energy, coffee, pills, supplements. If you ate on time, you would have energy. So These are misconceived things that I want to clear up, get you back to basics, back to yourself, and aware of what you're doing in your daily life that's going to help you have a better result for your workouts and your nutrition. I hope you enjoyed this quick webinar. There's no questions, so I'm going to sign off. Bye, guys.